If you have seen a movie, you have likely seen her work. Today, we're talking to the costume designer behind Pulp Fiction, Almost Famous, and currently Netflix miniseries Godless, right here today on the Fly Filmmaking.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Welcome, everyone. We're having a funky, fun day here on the Fly Filmmaking, the show where we learn about filmmaking from the people who are making it happen. Today, I've got Betsy Heimann, who is a wonderful costume designer with an amazing career. I'm so excited to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can find Betsy's work on Instagram at Betsy Heimann. You can also go to betsyheimann.com if you want to see some of her work. You can look at the history of her career as well as listen to it here on this show that we're chatting on right now. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Popcorn Talk. And if you guys are listening on podcast, please give us 5 stars and keep subscribing, keep listening. Let us know what you like. So, Betsy, I'm just so jazzed about your career. I feel like you've created so many iconic looks. You've worked on so many movies that like people dress up in costume from like things that you've created. Yeah, is that true? Does that come up for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And does that ever weird you out when you're like, oh yeah, I made that?
You know, when I started this career, I sort of made a vow that I didn't really care about the trophy. I wanted to be of influence to the people who were of influence, like my directors, the filmmakers. And when you make a vow, some comes true.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think that's a wonderful point that we'll definitely get into about like you went in for the work to influence the influencers. You came in to like make a difference and make an impact, but not for the trophy. And I think that that's a really wonderful approach to this. So on that note, how did you get into costume design? Like what brought you even on this journey?
The career was suggested to me.
Oh, okay.
But once it was suggested to me, I realized that I'd had all the training. I went to Cal Arts, I went to UCLA, theater arts and design, and I had so many visual memories of my childhood that all my memories were pictures in my mind. And finally somebody told me what to do with all of that, and I went for it.
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, you know, when folks are not sure about what to do in their career or what to pursue as their calling, I feel like it's always been there. Whatever it is has been there. It's just how do you tap into it or how do you frame it in a way that's accessible? So you always had these like images and then somebody was like, hey, maybe try this. Yeah. And it worked out for you.
Yeah, it was like it hit me. And I would just say that you have to follow those leads. If you have an inspiration, don't be afraid to follow it.
Yeah.
It might not pan out, but you know, it's not that far to fall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm the type of like creative that I've tried everything in filmmaking. I was like, oh, I want to like learn how to do makeup. I want to learn how to do costume. I want to learn how to do camera stuff. I want to learn how to direct. I just want to learn all of it. And so for me, it's always been kind of erratic until now when people are like, oh, you're a producer. You like understand all the bits and pieces and now you can come in here and you can speak all these different people's languages. And I was like, oh yeah, all right, by power of suggestion. I start to pursue that and it feels really good.
Yeah, you have to open your eyes, relax.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yes.
To Jimi Hendrix.
And it's
all good.
Yes, right. It makes such a difference, especially like with some good music. So you got suggested into this career, and I heard in one of your other interviews that you were mentored by a costume designer for other westerns for like John Wayne movies.
Lester Bayless.
Wow.
He was John Wayne's costumer.
Can you believe that? That's amazing.
It's so cool. And when I got my 30 days, because, you know, costume design, well, let me back up. I started at the bottom. I started as a seamstress. When the career was suggested to me was, we love this jacket you made. You could become a costume designer. You can start as a seamstress and work your way up, which nobody does, but I didn't know that. That sounded fine to me.
Yeah.
So
they gave you an outlet. It seemed like nobody does it, but it seemed to work out.
Was the path.
Yeah.
And so there's a costumers union and a costume designers union.
Oh.
And they're two different things.
Okay.
So I started as a costumer, as a seamstress, then a costumer, then every job as a costumer, then became a designer. And when I got my 30 days, your union days, as a costumer, Lester gave me John Wayne's neckerchief from True Grit.
Wow.
I know,
You
I still have it.
Yeah. I never lose that. That's
No,
amazing.
it was a big honor. It was,
And
yeah.
what did you learn on that job with those 30 days? Like, I'm sure you learned a lot, but
Well, I was there for 3 months. So.
for 3 months. But
Yeah.
so is there anything of that, I'm sure, like foundation wise, that you still find true today?
Oh, well, everything Lester taught me, I used on Godless, along with everything else I'd learned along the way.
Right. And isn't that amazing that it's gone back around to Westerns, because you started in Westerns and you've done like Quentin Tarantino movies and like Cameron Crowe movies, just like all these like other kind of things, and now back
Yeah.
to Westerns. Does it feel like a swan song, or like not
A
a swan song, but
homecoming.
like a homecoming? Yes, that's much better. That's like, here is everything that I've worked towards. Your path comes to this one.
Yeah.
It's great.
Fantastic. And I mean, Lester taught me how to age a hat. You know, these things don't come out of the box
Looking
old.
Yeah.
They come out of the box looking new. And there are textile artists, which is another craft within costume.
Yeah.
Very talented people who are artists with fabric paint and bleach and TSP and sandpaper and all kinds of things. So he taught me about how to do all of that. And I learned everything. I mean, really not everything I know, but the foundation that he gave me, how to organize everything. Costume 101, I learned from Lester.
Yes. And this all came from like, so that initial job with Lester how far were you into being a seamstress and moving your way up?
Well, I was sewing dresses for some dancers, and they came and asked the girl next to me at the machine next to me, was she free to bring to work the set and dress the dancers? And she said, no, she wasn't. And I said, well, I am.
Hello.
Next step.
Yes.
And I met Lester while I was on that job. He was not involved in that job, but I met him when I went across the street for my lunch break.
Yeah.
He was in the bar.
Yeah. Well, you talk to people and you made your,
I was introduced to him, and I said, lovely to meet you. I'm so sorry. Please don't think I'm rude. I have to get back early to dress the dancers. And he came over to my set about a half hour later, and he's Southern, he goes, I'm very impressed. But I guess people were fawning all over him to get a job. And he said, I like your work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm doing this movie. I'll get you in the union. Want to come with me? And I said, yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Here
it
we
was
go.
good. Yeah, it was good. Next step.
Yeah, great. So, and I love that concept of like, it's steps, right? So
It's
it
steps,
doesn't all just happen.
Otherwise, it's too overwhelming, one foot in front of the other. Like Godless was an overwhelming amount of work.
Yeah.
7 hours of television. And we shot it like 1 7-hour movie. It was an incredible experience. But if you think of it as a whole, number 498 on the call sheet of actor number 498, that
Yeah.
means there's 497 besides that one person.
Yeah.
So you kind of just stay, baby steps.
Yeah, one step in front of the other. So then what was your next step after that? So he took you under his wing. You're learning all this stuff. You get John Wayne's handkerchief. Then what's the next major step that came for you?
I started to work with other people and make other connections. And I was doing mostly period films at that time. And then I read this really strange script. I thought, I have no idea. This is amazing. I've never read anything like it.
And what was it?
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs. Amazing. And I loved one other interview that I listened to of yours was talking about conceptualizing how these guys would have come up with this look, and that they're thieves. They don't have money to just go like buy anything. They want to stay kind of anonymous, but they could at a thrift store, they could all go get a black suit. And the inspirations by like sitting with Quentin and looking at old movies. Like, I think that's really, really wonderful. Like, were there other things that you had pulled from old movies that have inspired other projects of yours?
Well, I think that Lawrence of Arabia was the movie I saw that made me understand the value and the impact of costume design. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that when you're a filmmaker, you are inspired by other films. I mean, Quentin showed me many films, and we
Yes.
spoke a film language. Like, I want the suede coat, like Hanover Street. No, like where So we would just trade visions in
Yeah.
movies. I love movies,
I
even
love
if
them
I
too.
wasn't working in movies. I
Yeah.
would still be watching them.
Yeah, I think
So,
about that stuff
yeah.
all the time where I'm just like, people must think I'm so nerdy because I'm always just very like in movie talk all the time. Like, oh my gosh, but did you not see like this is like this? It's inspired by this, obviously. And they're like, oh, okay.
That's fantastic.
I was like, that's not your language. It's fine.
Yeah, but it's good. See your influence.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so Reservoir Dogs. Talk to me about the experience of working with Quentin and that collaborative.
Fantastic.
Yeah, especially if you guys are speaking the same movie language. Like he's such a cinephile.
Yeah, well, he knows everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful experience. We went to Denny's, the Denny's on Sunset and Gower in Hollywood, and we discussed the movie, and we discussed it chapter and verse, and figured out what we were going to do, and we did it.
That's wonderful. And then he definitely seems like the type that like if he works with one person, he'll like continue using them in other projects. So then you got to work on Pulp Fiction with him. And so what was that like when he brought that to you?
Well, we went to Barney's Beanery.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. Mm-hmm. And we got our vision. We got on the same page with the vision, his vision. I mean, that's my job as a costume designer, is to get my director's vision on the screen. Or the director, he's not mine, but the director's vision on the screen. That is why I like my job. That is part of why I like my job.
Yeah.
I am in service. I am not a grand costume designer. I am there to serve
Yes.
and to get the vision up there, and it's inspiring. And the more inspiring the director, I think the better the work. The more inspiring the material, the better the work.
Yes. So what is a part of your process for prepping before a meeting like that? So whether with him or another director, I assume you get the script and then you start percolating some ideas. So what kind of prep do you do before getting to the meeting with them?
Well, that's changed over the years. In the beginning, way back then, you went in and they knew your work. They called you in because they knew your work. And basically you were there to sort of see if you could communicate and collaborate with the people, with the director or the producer, who was ever sitting in the room with you, all of the people. And you had knowledge of the script and knowledge of the characters, and that was always my approach, to say, well, I know that, blah, 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 and she does this and she does that, so she's probably, like Penny Lane. She's laughing on the outside, she's crying on the inside, she has this outer shell, this protection.
Yes.
This, Jerry Maguire, well, he's a sports agent, he's on the road all the time, his shirts are probably all folded up and neatly stacked and ready to go in the suitcase. I'm very literal. I treat it as reality.
Right. You're doing a lot with the character development, like not specifically like, okay, you hear like Penny Lane, you're like, oh, like cute party girl from the 70s. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like that could be all sorts of things, but you're going past that into the creative process because you are also a filmmaker. You're not just putting clothes on people.
Yeah. And now and they used to look at your portfolio. Now, really, some directors like to see what images that the script that they've sent you reminds you of.
Okay.
Or influence.
Kind of like a vision board?
Yes.
Okay.
They would like to see a vision board. And then sometimes they just hire you in the room and they don't look at anything.
Yeah.
So,
They're like, sure, okay.
My preparation is I read the script once, I read the script again, and then after the first read, if I'm thinking about it, if it's like capture my imagination, I know that I'm probably interested.
Yes.
If I read it and it's like, what was that? I better read that again. I'm probably not a good match for the project.
Yeah. So if it's not a good first date, then it's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because once you go into a movie or a TV project, like any kind of like on-camera project, it's going to be a minute. You're going to be together for a while.
It's going to be a while, and I've always been very selective.
Yeah.
I think I probably would have made a lot more contacts and maybe be a lot farther in my career than I am now if I said more yeses than nos.
Right, but you probably feel better about the
It's just
path
my
you're taking.
process.
Yeah. because you can go back and say, like, these are things that I am proud that I have done.
Yeah, well, you're not always right.
Yeah.
But I've always had a reason for accepting an assignment.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So I see that you also did like Rush Hour 3. So that one, I asked about that one specifically because I know that you would have to design in a specific way for stunts. So what kind of challenges came up with that? Because I'm sure lots of costumes got ripped up.
Well, you know, in the case of Jackie Chan, I think we had 3. They all looked like the same suit, but there were 3 different models. There was the standing, and there was the fighting, and then there was the moving. You know, it's like, so there were little gussets here, this, there. You have to take that into accommodation.
Yeah.
Especially when there's such strenuous fighting. And other things for stunts, you might just have 3 or 4 of the same suit. But
Right.
with Jackie in particular, there's a lot of action involved. And he's got to be able to swing his arm. He's got to be able to kick his leg.
Right.
And
so
so
there's like wires
maybe
attached to
want
him.
but when he's just doing regular work, you want him to have a nice silhouette. So that, but maybe when he's in a fight, he puts the jacket on that's got a little bit of a gusset under the arm, a little bit wider sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah, you're an engineer.
Yeah.
You're like doing all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels had no arm in Godless.
Yeah.
That was a bit of engineering.
Right, because you know, he does have an arm in real life, so
No, we just cut it off.
No, they just cut it off. Well, it used to commitment. So, but it was like he like was it like strapped behind his back, or
It
was
depended.
it like a, so
It
depending
depended
on what they were
what
doing?
camera angle, what, you know, how he could best stay on the horse.
Yeah.
You know.
Right on. Gosh, it's like just so impressive the kind of things that go into costume design that you don't see as a film audience, like unless you're like know what you're
Well, you
looking for, right?
shouldn't
But
see
you
it.
shouldn't.
No.
And that's like the beautiful thing is like
Yeah.
we've got all the secrets. And now, you know, just for your enjoyment, so you guys can see the movie and experience it in a really great way. So of your recent projects, so Netflix, Godless. So you're currently still working on this, or no, it's complete.
That's
it's
a
miniseries.
limited miniseries.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at the trailer for that, and then we'll chat about that project.
Okay, great.
There's 83 good men. Gone in less than 5 minutes.
It's a fearful thing to love what death can touch.
Where are all the men at?
Dead. Mine took them.
All of them.
How has the town fared without any men around?
Someone's got to look after things around here.
A town full of ladies. It's ripe fruit for the wicked.
Frank Griffin's been looking for Roy Good.
He's going to kill anyone that Roy Good loves or cares about.
The good people of Creed let them walk their streets. Now they don't have no streets.
When he finds out who's living here,
God help you folks.
Mister, we're a lot fucking stronger than you think we are.
There's something I gotta finish. I'm bad luck.
We have that in common then.
This here's the land of the blade and the rough. It's godless country.
Let's all talk about this like civilized folks.
Sure, come on in.
I suggest we all first lower our weapons.
So much fun. You guys can check out Godless on Netflix. It's a 7-episode miniseries available now. I've watched the beginning of it, and it's like in this trailer, just so much fun.
The trailer rocks.
Yeah, it's a really, really fabulous trailer. So with that, most of your career has been movies. So this one's a 7-episode, so it's like a 7-hour movie. What were some of the differences and challenges and things you might have liked better or worse in one way or the other?
Well, this was a particular situation. I have a relationship with the writer-director Scott Frank that goes all the way back to Get Shorty.
Oh, good.
So, and Netflix is a very particular situation in that they are into the creatives, and you have to work really hard to get them to pay attention. I mean, to comment in a negative way. You know, they just set you free. And they trusted Scott. Scott trusted me. So that part of it was blissful. But it was huge.
So
I mean,
much.
I've never done so much
You're
in
talking
my
about like
life.
500 people you're having to dress?
Yeah.
Is that in most episodes?
Well, I think we only went up to, like I said, like 476.
Oh, 476.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was...
Including yourself that day? Like,
Exactly. It's different. It was like making a 7-hour movie. And so the stamina required for that. And there's a thing they do in television, if you want to call Netflix television, it's called cross-blocking. And cross-blocking means, like, if we're in this studio today, and in our movie, we come back here in episode 3 and episode 7, and maybe in episode 4, then we're going to shoot all of those, even if we're in different outfits and it's different days and different things are happening.
oh my gosh. So you're having to do like a whole arc of a series on just a few days.
So in other words, you have to do it all up front.
Yeah.
You
have to plan the whole thing.
In certain cases, yes.
Yeah. Did you have a warehouse of costumes?
Oh, yes. We brought the Godless collection from various rental houses, and then I made about 300 costumes and designed them because it was just easier.
Right.
Sometimes it's just easier. Like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder, like it all has to be designed, you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just easier if you want a green shirt and no one's making them, just make your own.
Right, you just need to make this shirt.
I've got the tools. I had a fabulous cutter fitter and a fabulous stitcher. I had a workroom there.
Yeah.
Like 25 people were working with me, including the textile artists and the set crew, the fitting crew. You know,
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more about that team. So if you've got people who are painting fabrics, you've got people who are buying specific fabrics, you've got seamstresses, you've got, what are some of the other pieces of your team that people might not know about?
Well, you have me, and then you have assistant costume designer, and then you have a buyer who's like searching for the trim on all those ladies' dresses and the buttons on everybody's
And I heard there was
coats.
like on Etsy, they found a lot.
Yes.
That's just amazing. The internet's so great.
Well, a lot of the trims came from Etsy, and actually on the job I was talking to you about earlier, like, it was so funny, at 6 p.m., after the costume houses would close, I would sit at my computer and order gloves, jewelry, because the last thing I did was 1962. So Etsy was very, very, very good. And then we had, we made the clothes. Then we had people that kicked the shit out of the clothes.
Yes, okay.
And then...
right, because we're in it's a Western, nothing's new. Like, stuff has to look like it's been hanging and like been washed a bunch of times.
Well,
Like,
may I just tell you that nothing comes right out of the package for me,
Right.
whether it's set today or in 1884.
yeah, nobody's getting a new outfit.
Preparation of the clothes is very important. You have to at least dry clean them or wash them. Or in a modern thing, you can't just throw the clothes on people.
Wow.
I think one of the secrets of my success is the treatment of the clothing. It's very, very important.
Oh, that's interesting. So if you're in a, we talk about on the fly stuff all the time. This is the basis of the show. Is like in filmmaking, sometimes you just have to make decisions and you have to do something. So say, a shirt is incorrect or an outfit is incorrect. Like, you send somebody out to Target to go buy something and then it still has to get washed before it gets put on the person.
Well, okay, so back to your original question of the television versus the movies. TV is very on the fly. And I think some movies are now too. But TV is very on the fly. And if you're doing a modern show, because I've done a few pilots, and I understand that you could be at the mall at 9 p.m. before they close. Not so much the outfit's wrong, but you only just got the actor at 7 p.m. and they work in the morning.
Right.
It's very hard to prepare the clothes that way.
If you don't have the performer, you don't have their sizes, you don't know what they look like, what's going to match with them.
And that's what I have to say, that Netflix was very kind in bringing the people in, even if they came in early and then went away and came back before they shot. We had a lot of Broadway actors, and they'd fly in on the Monday on their dark day.
Yeah.
The theater was dark.
Yeah.
And they'd come for their fitting, and then when they would come for their shooting, the costume would be ready.
Yes.
As we get their sizes and we put it into work, and then we'd age it. And
Yeah. So because you have to have some kind of processing time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were very kind to give me that time.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why people like the work. They like the way it looks because they gave me the time, and I am forever grateful.
Yeah,
for
because
that.
you were able to do your work, do your thing. Was there anything on this project, especially given there were so many people for you to dress, that you go back and you're like, I wish I just had this thing could have been a little bit better, could have been more time, could have had more detail?
Well, that's the artistic temperament.
Yes, they were just built like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy with the result. I had
Yeah.
a very good team. And in LA, I had quite an excellent team that set the way I like things done, so that when we got to Santa Fe, the people could see how I like things done.
Yes.
And that was a good reference point for them.
Did you bring in a lot of your crew from LA and previous? It's all new people?
I was only allowed to bring Maria Tortu, my assistant costume designer. She was the only one.
Yeah, so like a crew of 25, is that what you said your costuming crew was? That's a lot of new people.
Yeah, so there were 3 regularly on set, and then back in the department, I had 5 or 6, I think, because we were fitting background all the time. Because in a period film, you have to fit the background.
Right.
Because otherwise, you slow down production.
Yes.
You can't fit, 60 people every morning, or they'll be waiting
Yes.
for you. So I had those. That's the difference. And then on the busy days when all those people would go to the set, the fitters would go to the set
Yeah.
and work the set. So it was, that's sort of what all these people did. And there were more crafts people. And I had to count them up the other day for somebody else was asking me.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up with 25.
Wow.
Including the crew in LA,
Yeah, that's really impressive, and to be able to manage a group like that, and so and they're in different cities, and were a lot of them like hired in Santa Fe local, or were most people brought over from LA?
No, nobody came from LA.
Oh.
Just me and Maria.
That's it. Like they're not even like hired outside, but still traveled in. You had to get them all local. And how was sourcing that?
What do you mean?
Is there like a big film community in Santa
sure.
Fe?
They
Yeah.
make a lot of films there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very lucky. Cooley, one of our set guys, Cooley Walters, came from South Carolina. We got special dispensation for Cooley.
But most people had to work as locals. Is there a particular piece in there that you're like super proud of? In Godless, of any of the costumes?
I'm super proud that each actor looked like an individual.
Yes, I did notice that. That person chose their outfit today, like
And
that character.
I attribute that to Scott Frank.
Yeah.
Because the characters were so well defined on the page. I knew what to do.
Right. Because you're going through, so you get the script, you're looking at the characters, and you're not just designing like, here's things of the period. You're like, this is this character's wardrobe. This is this character's wardrobe, which I think is crazy impressive. And then how is that being organized? Because you guys are on location a lot, but you had a warehouse that was near location.
Well, Maria says I'm the most organized costume designer she's ever worked
Yes.
with. And she's worked with lots of other people
Yeah.
besides me. I just have a brain for that.
That's good. But that might be attributed to something else I heard in one of your interviews where you're like, you want to approach things with an open hand and not a closed hand.
Yeah.
And, maybe your organizational mind like feeds into that, because you can come with an open hand and be like, I know where to put these pieces.
Yeah, well, what I mean when I say that is if the fist is closed, the dollar can't drop into the open hand. And it's same as inspiration. Like if you put up resistance intentionally or not, like, no, I can't do that. No, that's too hard. Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're preventing the part of your brain that says, oh, well, if I did, then, it's like, what did the producer said? I was like a boxer before a fight. He caught me one day, like I was pacing, trying to figure out a problem.
Yeah.
Instead of going, I can't do this. There's just no way. And all I could say was, if everybody does their job perfectly, this will work.
Yes.
So let's see how that can work.
Let's do
and
this.
Trust.
That like you put the right people in the right place, and that people will come through to do their part.
Yeah.
Because you are like having to trust a bunch of different pieces. So even like within the bigger filmmaking realm, you're having to trust all the departments, and within each department, you have to trust that each person's doing
Well, if
their
you
job.
tell people, I've always found, and this was in the beginning of my career, if you can tell people what you want, it's a lot easier for them to help you.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a costume designer, to go into a meeting and just say, I want to be a costume designer is one thing, but to go in and say, I like your work. This was the film I liked. I wanted this. I want to be like this. This is what I want. Then somebody can say, oh, I can give that to you, or
Yes.
sorry, I can't. But
But it's in their mind now. They have a clear vision of what your intentions and desires are.
yeah, your passion, your enthusiasm can come forward
Yeah.
and then inspire who's listening to you.
Yeah, which is great. I think that's really wonderful advice. And we were chatting about something before we started the interview about people who are getting into filmmaking and like advice that you might want to point out to them. What were some of those things?
Well, it's a certain frame of mind. And you have to understand that you could be out of work for months. And then when you do work, you work long, long hours. And, you know, we're basically high-paid blue-collar workers. We're on our feet 12 to 14 hours a day, and then we could be off for 2 or 3 months. Some of us gravitate towards TV series because that's a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
That has scheduled vacations and, you know, scheduled time off. But then those hours are, I mean, when one of the girls that I used to work with, I think she bought a car and paid cash for it on one TV series.
Yeah.
I mean, this was years ago. That's how many hours she had to work. So
Yeah.
you have to know that it's very long hours, and your passion has to carry you through, you know. And then your passion has to carry you through the times when you're out of sync with the people that you know, and you have to find new people, and it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that concept of being in sync with the other people in other projects, because there's so many pieces to creating a project that anybody might be in any point of their creative process, but they might not be at the point of hiring you.
Yeah.
So you got to find other people who might be there, but then that might cost you something with this other person, but you can't wait necessarily. You know, you need to keep your projects going. Were there any projects with filmmakers you've worked with that you had to miss out on because you ended up going a different route?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
That doesn't stick out. I know there were a few things that I said no to that I'm not sorry I said no, but if I had said yes, I could have developed a relationship with people that might have been interesting to have a relationship with later.
Right. Yeah, so, but those are choices that you make, right? So,
Too
like,
bad.
it was right.
It's over
We're
now.
Here
Yeah.
we are. Here we are. Were there any of your projects that you feel were just like your favorites?
Well, I loved Almost Famous.
Yes.
I loved it. Except for the one that's coming out in November, I think.
Yeah.
Until that happened, it was my favorite movie.
Okay, so Almost Famous was your favorite until this new project, but we'll talk about in just a little bit. So there was another thing that I picked up from one of your interviews, and Marissa is asking about this with the color palette for Godless. And I know that you worked with the art department. You guys matched.
Yes, I used a very limited palette, and I used a range of colors of the colors in the palette. Not too far, but like maybe there were 3 greens, 5 kind of dusty roses into purples. And I stuck with that.
Yeah.
And the hair and makeup people stuck with that. They used the dirt from the streets of the towns we were in for the aging. If it was red dirt, then they'd age with red dirt for, you know, very often.
So it makes a difference.
And it makes it contains the world, and it gives it, I feel, more authenticity. And it composes your scene.
Yeah.
You know, and with the women, they were all the same colors. I'm very proud that all those women look different.
Yeah.
And all their clothes were mismatched. Everybody in the movies' clothes were mismatched, but I think because there were checks with stripes but small floral patterns, and I think it worked because it was all in the palette.
Yes.
And sort of that feeling of whatever's on the line that's clean and dry is what I'm putting on today.
Right. Yeah. They're like, okay, well, I have this. I had this beautiful, this piece that I was attracted to or inherited. And then also, I know the fabrics you use, you tried to stay within just what they would have had actual access
silk
to.
and linen and wool, basically, and cotton.
Yeah. And so you had to like
Calico.
specifically stay with that.
Made friends with the woman who sells all calico to these quilters. And that fabric is tough to break down.
Is it?
So I guess that's why they used a lot of it.
Right, because it was
We
sturdy.
were trying to kill that thing. It would not die, you know?
Yeah. What kind of stuff did you end up having to do? Did you have to
I
level
don't
up your
know.
breakdown game?
I have to ask. You have to ask Rachel and Keith, what did
Yes.
you do?
Oh, my
And some of them
gosh.
you just couldn't. Some of them just wouldn't. And so then there were I wanted to use it for certain things, and I just stopped.
Yeah, you're like,
Not
you can't
using
play
that.
with you.
I'm using that more with the guys that work for the mining company because they were cleaner, newer, fresher.
Yeah.
They were horribly ugly, dirty people,
Yes.
but not on the outside.
Yeah.
Because Godless is about nobody's good and nobody's completely good and nobody's completely bad. Nobody's completely hard and nobody's completely soft.
Yeah.
And so that was my challenge, to work with the hard and soft edges.
Yeah.
Like with Mary Agnes, she was wearing her husband's clothes and she had a very hard outside, very soft inside, with a little ruffle on her shirt.
Little ruffle.
Little, you know, little. Just
Which
a
is like
little,
so
you know.
interesting from like original westerns where like it was like clear, like this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. It's a totally different approach to this classic like theme of storytelling.
Scott Frank,
Yeah.
he writes it.
Brilliant.
You know, that's what he wrote.
It's so brilliant. Okay, so let's chat about this new project that you have coming up called Green Book.
Oh, yeah.
So that one is, who are our stars of this one that are coming out?
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen,
and
Linda.
Mahershala Ali. And Linda Cardinale.
Yes, and what is the story for this?
It's based on a true story set in 1962 about a bouncer from the Copacabana who takes time off to be a driver for a African-American concert pianist who was trained in Russia and is doing a concert tour of the Deep South in 1962.
Wow. That's going to be a fun movie. And I bet that was like great to costume that, to do wardrobe for that. So has it shot already? You're still in
Yes,
production?
we wrapped at the end of January.
Okay, congratulations.
It's coming out in November.
Great, great. So
future.
You said a lot of the like accessories you were finding off of Etsy, and then
Well,
other pieces you were making.
Because the two guys were in the car a lot of the time, and they had their looks, but they were, the trip, you know, as they got deeper down the river,
Yes.
it was defined by the audiences. At the Plantation.
Right.
There was one at the Plantation. A concert hall in Louisville doesn't look like a concert hall in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And so all the accessories, and was a lot to do with the background.
Yeah,
on
I can
that
see
show.
where this is fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun for you because you're not just there's so many different colors that you're working with, and just like in personalities and in locations as well as like actual color palette.
Yeah.
Like you could go past your color palette in Godless.
Right. Well, you don't always have a color palette. I think certain films require a color palette and certain don't. I mean, 1962 has a color palette of its own.
Yeah. Is it
And
Seafall?
you adhere to that. I don't remember now.
Yeah. That's January.
I'm on 1983 right now, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what was 1962.
You're a time traveler.
Well, you know, it's so funny. I did all period films in the beginning, read Reservoir Dogs. That was like a hard left.
Yes.
I never came back to the period films until Godless, and all of a sudden it's all period films again.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
It's all the rage.
Keeps it interesting.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I'm glad that you got to work on something newer that you could like really bite your teeth into and like feel like
it's
it might
been
be
a
your new
good-
favorite.
Yeah, that was one of the ones where I prepared so hard. I was so proud of myself. I did this whole thing on my iPad of images because they were real people.
Yeah.
So and real places, and I figured out, this is like, I know I'm older, I don't have technology together, but pretty good. And I figured out how to put music on my iPad of the guy, of the concert pianist.
So you're like super.
So I had this whole music little video with slides kind of. I walked in the room. And he says, you know, you're just fantastic if you want to do this movie, and you can do it for the money you're hired.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't you want to see my presentation?
But I did all of this. I did this thing.
And he's like, oh, if you want me to. So you just never know what's
Yeah,
going to happen.
but at least you felt good about doing that because then you
Oh,
could
yeah.
go in and I bet that preparation already just it sits in your
Oh,
body.
yeah.
So you go into your meeting, you're like, I'm ready to show you, and he's like, you got the job.
I wanted that job so bad. I don't
Yeah.
even know how it happened. I just, like, it's never happened to me before where I've said, I really want this job.
Yeah. Are there any any movies that were created like over the history that you were like, I would have loved to have been the person to do that movie?
Oh, gosh. No, because I sort of respect my colleagues.
You're right.
And I love to see what they've done.
Right.
There's a movie now that I wish that I would had been asked to do, but they already have someone in mind, and
Yeah.
I respect that. If
Yeah.
a director has a relationship, I respect that because I want my directors to
Yes.
stay with me.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
You can't really be sad about what you don't get.
Yeah.
You just have to feel like something else will be coming too.
Right.
you
Well,
know?
like what I feel about like sometimes, like with books that get interpreted into movies, and of course, like we always vision it one way versus
Yes.
what it goes on the screen. So I always think not in a negative way of like, oh, if I had my hands on this, like I kind of would have went this direction or that direction. So that's just interesting as a creative to be like, that's an interesting choice. I think that's really great.
Right.
You know, like this,
Right.
I
Well,
would have went in a different way.
Like, I am not a look at me, in my version, I would say, of that, is that I'm not a look at me costume designer. I don't break your focus with my costumes, where there are many who are, and they're just so stunning, and the work is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It takes you right out of the movie for maybe a moment or two, enough to miss a couple of lines of dialogue. Could be important. I'm all about, you know, the character, the journey, so...
But you've managed to do that and it still be iconic, which is like, I think an intentional move, because you're not trying to bring to the, like the costuming, you're not trying to overshadow the story, but you are working with the story. And that's what makes it really stunning. And so I applaud you. I'm just like, I think it's really, really fabulous. Do you have any advice for our aspiring costumers or filmmakers outside of, you know, you need
perseverance?
Yes. You need to really want it.
Well, you know, you set yourself up and you have to just try to believe in yourself and just try to get your shtick together.
Yes.
You know, try to put into words. Try to find the people that you want to work with and try to be specific and don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up.
Do what you love. Just and you know what? If it's too much, if it's a dream, if you can't, there's a lot of criticism in television. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. A lot of people have stuff to say, and a lot of being a costume designer is being not a politician, but being flexible and being open to a barrage of information. And I just mean that. Even at this point in my career, it like sends me spinning. So if it's not for you, it's not the end of the world, because maybe there's something else that could work for you.
Right.
And to just feel good about yourself and feel good about your effort and pay attention to what you're looking at, pay attention to what you're hearing.
Yeah, pay attention, because like I feel like the through line is there. Like the little, like the universe telling you some direction, that the hints are there, but try stuff. Yeah, really wonderful information, and I loved hearing about your career, so thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you guys check out Betsy's work at betsyheimann.com, also on Instagram at Betsy Heimann, and you can watch Godless on Netflix right now, 7-part miniseries, and you guys can find me all over the internet at Marielou Mandl. We'll catch you next time on the Fly Filmmaking.
Woohoo!
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed here are those of the host only, not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or customers.